Hello. I am. My face is super swollen this morning, so ignore how I look and that my eyes are barely open. I, like many other movie watching Americans, saw the preview for Four Good Days with Mila Kunis and Glenn Close. And I have to say, this morning I felt a sort of validation or a seenness. I felt seen for the first time in a really long time. First time ever about my drug addiction like this. I have to tell you that Mila Kunis did a fantastic experience or gave a fantastic performance rather, and I hope that it's a great experience when people watch the movie. I have made videos in the past about like, look at what me and my kids are doing, or we made homemade honey, we made this, we did that, we, all this cookie cutter bullshit that I kind of feel like people want to see. When one of the most fascinating things about me is that I'm a drug addict. In case you didn't know that. In case you've only ever seen me in my Betty Crocker kind of cooking for you or whatever mold, I am a drug addict, and it's super fun. No, it's the hardest thing I battle in a day, and it's the biggest thing that I battle. And I wanted to come clean with something to my family and friends that I have never mentioned before, because my addiction and all of that, thankfully, with Sean and everything else, has been kept very private. But I am on Suboxone, and this was from today's dose, actually. If you can see, it says 4 milligrams, 4 milligrams, and 1 milligram. So there's 4 milligrams of Suboxone and 1 milligram of naloxone. So what is Suboxone? Suboxone is an opioid agonist, which means that it works on your brain and surrounds your opioid sensors like a warm little blanket and gets you just level enough with your medicine to not feel the terrible withdrawal, the shaking she was doing in the movie, and the twitching and all of that stuff. It's absolutely real, and if you've never had RLS from opioid withdrawal, then you've never really had RLS. I have had times where I felt like I was literally going to burst out of my body. I get it really bad in my shoulders and my arms, and I just go like this the whole night. And my husband, my poor husband, has stayed up with me, comforting me so many nights. A lot of you also know that I've had a shit ton of surgeries. I'll sort of tell you where my drug addiction came from. I had 14 surgeries in 2018. And 2017, I had a shitload of medicine too. So I got up to the point where I went to the hospital, and when I first had my pain from my flipped pouch from my weight loss surgery, that's a whole other story. When I had my pain, they started to give me Dilaudid. They started to give me 0.5 milligrams every 4 to 6 hours. I was in the hospital for 5 to 10 days at a time as they removed organs to see basically how to put me back together again, because I was Humpty Dumpty and fell off the fucking fat WLS wall, and when I stood back up, nothing was right again and nothing worked. So I had a feeding tube, I had all this different stuff that was super painful. So I lost my train of thought because I was looking for my coffee. So every time I would go in, they would need higher and higher amounts of medicine to get me out of pain. And it's not that the doctors were overprescribing, and it's not that I was drug seeking anything. Dilaudid feels wonderful. Anyone in their entire, a nun right now, if you pulled her out and told her you're no longer married to God, you need a surgery right now, and this is, or not, you're no longer married to God, that was kind of dramatic, but if you pulled her out of what she was doing and said you need Dilaudid for a surgery, when they push that medicine into her, she's going to feel wonderful no matter how she feels about it. And that's one of the things that you're biased. A lot of people don't like to drink because of how it tastes, everything else. There's no one, I don't think, on earth who's like, well, I don't really like the way Dilaudid feels because I don't like the beetle. You almost start to crave that at a certain point too. So getting back, I went from needing Dilaudid to needing stronger pain medicine. I went up the ladder. I don't want to name them all because I don't want to tempt anyone who's actually struggling with addiction and just like make you fantasize about these drugs. But I went all the way up to fentanyl patches, and they were 100 milligrams. And I would put those on every 3 days. And I felt great. I was fucking, when I got home from the hospital, I was super mom. Like, I could still stand, I could still cook dinner, I could do everything that I was doing, bathe my babies, had no problem taking care of anything, never needed help, and I was totally fine. Now, when the doctors took away the pain meds, I started to feel a feeling that I had felt before, but I wasn't sure necessarily what it was. My cats are being crazy. Are you fighting? Are you fighting? I had such a hard time coming off of the medicine. I would have RLS. I would be sneezing, yawning. These are the things that are actually symptoms of it, which you don't even really notice. So it wasn't hard for Sean to miss the first couple of times that I had gone into true withdrawal. It wasn't hard for him to miss because it's really hard to tell when someone else is going through things, because unlike Mila Kunis, I don't have a bunch of like scratches all over my face and I'm not like this at your door, because I never was. I was a calm, collected, normal looking, fully functional addict. So when I wake up in the morning, I take one of these strips. What do I do with it? I put it under my tongue and it dissolves, and then suddenly I'm okay for the rest of the day and I'm able to function. I'm actually tapering off. So I started at 24 milligrams of Suboxone and I'm now down to 4. So I'm tapering off. When I wake up in the morning, I am bad. I am in full withdrawal because I'm getting towards the end of my taper. And now the more, even little bits that I take away, unfortunately, it just sucks. So in the past 3 years, if you've seen me kicking ass and taking names, I've been homeschooling my kids. I've been taking care of my children. I have one little ninja. I have another little Boy Scout. I love my children, and they are my life's greatest work, and that's why I needed to get help. And the help that I needed was this. I couldn't do it by myself. And there's a lot of people that can't. There's so many people who would come on here right now and be like, you're not sober. You're taking Suboxone, you're still technically using something, you're not sober. I'd rather use this for 100 years than have one of my bad days. That's the truth. So I'm only going to be on this for 2 more months, but it's going to be hell coming off of it. And it's the biggest thing that I've done in my life, is because addiction runs heavy in my family. Like, I don't have parents because they were drug addicts, and my brother and I were adopted by our grandparents, who had their own addiction problems. I grew up in a house where medicine was so normal that if you had period cramps at 14, my mom would give me a Vicodin versus a Tylenol like someone else's parents. So I had experienced so much of a tolerance to these opiate medications that I really didn't have a chance. My brother also suffers with addiction. His story is his own to tell, but we lived pretty much the same timeline. Some things that can help when you're in addiction, in case you came in withdrawal, rather, in case you came to this video to find out, how I'm surviving the withdrawal. Hot showers, number one. If I don't feel good and I'm not feeling great and I'm shaky and my back has the twitchy feeling in it and I start getting the creepy crawlies all over me, like it's not like there's bugs on you. Disregard a lot of what you hear from normal straight people trying to tell other drug addicts what they're gonna go through. It's not like there's bugs on you. It's more like there's something in your body that needs to get out and you've got to keep moving. The sleep time is the worst. So you can sort of make it through the day, just dragging ass, drink some coffee, blah, blah, blah. But it's worse at night. So as I get closer to the bed, I get this almost anxiety that I'm not going to be able to lay still And this is still 3 years later after the worst of my withdrawal. And I still get nervous that I'm not going to be able to lay down. I'm not going to be able to stay still, and I'm going to have that uncomfortable feeling. And that feeling when it comes back is the worst in the entire world. The night that I actually decided to go to treatment, because Sean was the one who kind of said, hey, we can get help if you need it. I don't know how serious this is, but we were in the garage and I was like, man, I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. And I was just moving around and doing my normal thing. And I was like, I need medicine. I need to go to the hospital. My stomach is in pain. That was my thing, is I did have stomach pain. I had chronic stomach pain because I had chronic stomach issues, but they did not necessarily warrant opiates. I managed them very well today with just Tylenol and, Pepto and Tums and stuff like that, but I have a lot of digestive issues from my weight loss surgery. Sean looked at me and it was like the most pure thing in the entire world. And he just looked over at me and was like, we can get help. Sorry, something happened to my phone. We can get help. We don't have to do this by ourselves. And I went to the clinic the next morning and it would have been 48 hours off of opioid medications. And I was sitting in that waiting room with pins and needles all over my body. My cats are wild right now. Ooh, and I heard them run into something. I had a terrible, terrible time. And I was sitting in that office and I was thinking to myself, I can never do this again. I can never be at this point again. Whether I'm on Suboxone or not, whether, you view me as clean or not, I view me as clean because I have fantastic days versus, like I said, my bad ones in the past. But I just remember thinking, this has got to be it. This has got to be the thing that helps you, because I couldn't stop on my own. So I started taking Suboxone, and immediately that morning I felt a relief. I felt return to normal that I had never felt before. So I started on 2 milligrams, and they went up to 24 milligrams before I would stop having PAWS, which is post-acute withdrawal syndrome, which means that even if you're not in active withdrawal, like the day after you stop taking medicine, you could have acute withdrawal, say the next week, the week after that, 3 months down the fucking road, who knows, because bodies are these horrible things that make us feel all these feelings, right? But yeah, it's been a wild journey, and I've never been as validated as I am this morning. I'm like, hell yes, someone is going to see what agonists are and what, people in the same situation that I'm going through are in. And you can never know. So that's the magic of it too, is you would never know if someone else is using or not, unless it's really, really fucking obvious. But you could be looking at someone who just resembles Martha Stewart, and she can be down in pills when you're not watching. But I'm gonna update when I do my medicine tomorrow, but I figured I would just make this video because I was like, hell yes, something being represented that's so difficult is the choice to go on an opioid agonist. And for any of you considering it, or if you have your first appointment today, or if you have your 500th appointment today, if you're taking your 1000th strip today, you're doing whatever you need to do to get better, and I salute you.